Good morning everyone. This is Kailin Kamikawa. Everyone is worried about the outbreak of corona infection in South Korea, right? What? Are you worried? Well, don't say so. Please go out with me www. In South Korea 1. I did a lot of PCR, is it reliable? 2. I also wore a mask, is it true? 3. I also got a vaccine, is it true? But why did Japan succeed and South Korea fail? It's strange, isn't it? Why did South Korea fail when both Taiwan and Japan were successful? Maybe quarantine was wrong? What? As expected, do you not understand it at this stage? But if you look at the situation in India, do you have any hints? In conclusion, as a hypothesis, whether or not an infection will explode may change depending on the difference in antibody prevalence. What about when you think about it? Well, in principle, whether it gets infected and becomes serious, is of course, it's the difference between whether or not there is an antibody. India was hit by the second wave of outbreaks from April to May 2021. The number of newly infected people per day at the peak is 400,000 people nationwide and 28,000 people in the capital. The metropolitan government has implemented a lockdown. After that, I released it after unlocking the lockdown. Infection prevention measures such as vaccination and wearing masks were still inadequate. It has been on a downward trend since July, and now the average number of newly infected people is 9,480 per day. Compared to May 9th, when the average number of people per day peaked, it dropped to about 2%. It's still more than in Japan and South Korea, however, since the start of the pandemic, 34,544,882 infected people and 466,980 dead. Compared to, it can be said that the crisis has escaped. And it is said that this cause can only be explained by herd immunity. To obtain herd immunity, it is said that 70 to 80% of the population needs to have antibodies to the new coronavirus. For that purpose, it is necessary to either promote vaccination or infect. The vaccination status in India is as of July. The number of people who finished the second dose is still small at about 10% of the population, and the number of people who received the first dose is just over 20%. It was about 30% in total. However, according to reports such as Indian media, in an antibody survey of about 30,000 people conducted by the Indian Medical Research Council in July, more than 60% of those who have not been vaccinated, it turned out that he had an antibody against the new coronavirus. In other words, it is possible that a large number of people were infected before they were aware of it. If 60% of people are infected and 30% are vaccinated, it is possible that about 90% of people had antibodies. India may have acquired some herd immunity at this point. Then, in October of this year, in New Delhi, the capital of India, according to a survey by local authorities, the antibody prevalence of the new coronavirus has risen to 97%. The number of new infections has decreased sharply, and it is possible that we have acquired a state close to herd immunity. However, the amount of antibody required to prevent this infection, as we don't know how long it can be maintained or whether it will work for new variants. However, if you look at the situation in India, even if the infection spreads, that is why. There is no doubt that human beings will eventually carry antibodies and the infection will subside. So what matters is whether it's a vaccine or a natural infection. It is important how to reduce the damage and to have the antibody as a group. Like quarantine, we aim to zero infection and zero corona by identifying subclinical infections. That means that being a solution is impossible in the long run. Well, it would be effective to temporarily reduce the number of victims. The real solution is not to have a PCR test for all the people, but to have antibodies. It is enough to use the PCR test for the definitive diagnosis of the infected person, and what you have to do is quietly, slowly, naturally, subclinically, infected, plus by vaccination having a valid antibody as corona's solution. Well, it's natural. The TV amateur commentator, who couldn't understand it, made a fuss about it. The crime of trying to guide the people in the wrong direction is heavy. I think commentators who whispered to imitate South Korea should take responsibility for it and resign. But as expected, the Japanese government is not stupid, so I think it is worthy of respect to deal with this point by looking at the reality. By all means, as the Japanese government, Japan has acquired herd immunity. The world must learn from Japan. I want you to declare to the world. I want you to imitate Korea in such an appealing place www. That's all.
Hello.
Hi.
Surprise. Hello.
Hi.
Surprise. Hello.
Hi.